Hey, Geekscapists, what's up? I'm sitting here with my friend Bomani J Story. He's got a brand new movie out. It's called The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. I think you horror fans are going to love this movie. It premiered at South by Southwest, and it comes out pretty soon. It's coming out in June on VOD. It's got a release through ALLBlk, Shudder, and RLJE Films.
And
That's
theaters.
actually in theaters. That's in theaters and on digital on
Yeah,
June 9th.
yeah.
So that's June 9th on those. And then you guys are going to have the streaming on Shudder and ALLBlk, which is it's an app, right? ALLBlk is like an app or something.
It's a streaming service. Yeah, All Black and Shudder, both streaming services.
That'd be awesome. And that's after June 9th, but theaters June 9th.
June theaters, June 9th, and then sometime later in the year, or sometime it'll be on those services. First theaters, baby. Come see it on the
Yeah.
big screen.
I actually suggest Geekscape is that y'all see it on the big screen, especially you horror fans.
Mhm.
And Momani, are you ready to be like accepted by the horror fans on this one? Because I think that it's a pretty wonderful movie. I think it's great. I think Geekscape is it's like an adaptation, a version of the Frankenstein story, but it's about this incredibly sharp girl living in a lower income neighborhood. It's riddled by drugs, gang violence. It's claimed someone she knows, and I love that opening narration, that opening voiceover. I think it's beautiful what you wrote.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it was uh, I was luckily I was blessed with a great cast, and a great team to kind of bring this to life. So it was it's a fun ride as much as production can be. Stuff.
Yeah, I actually, Bonnie, like you're being humble right now, but the truth is, like, listen, no offense to our publicists, no offense to the folks at Shudder. Like, this isn't necessarily a horror show. This is a film show, a pop culture show, and so
Hmm.
every now and then I see like a horror show or like a horror movie or something, and it just feels like a lot of other horror movies. No offense to all the horror people up there. Like, if you make a movie, if you make a TV show, if you make a web series, if you make anything in this world, I think that you've done something beautiful and you've pushed something, and someone will like it.
Hmm.
But when I started seeing uh, really this story come around as a filmmaker, seeing Angry Black Girl come together and hearing about it on the festival circuit, hearing that there's a production that's coming together and that it's a unique look at a traditional Frankenstein story, um, I was into it and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I hope they don't like they have the opportunity to do something special here. I hope they don't drop the ball on it. And when I hear those opening narrations, and plus your DP and just these beautiful images that y'all crafted, and you hear the opening voiceover, death is a disease. And this girl who's seen death all around her and starts to decide that she's going to fight death scientifically. And she kind of becomes a bit of like Dr. Frankenstein in her neighborhood. And she's surrounded by it and she wants to cure it so that she can protect the ones she loves. I think you're actually making a pretty personal movie. And I think it's a very pensive movie. And that's why I think that this movie overcomes a lot of the stuff around it in the horror, as far as horror movies go.
Hmm.
So I will take your credit to your crew, did a great job. I will take your credit to everyone involved, your cast, great job. That dinner scene is beautiful. I love that dinner scene.
Thank
But
you.
Bomani, sooner or later, you're gonna have to start taking credit for this stuff. You wrote a really beautiful opening, and that walk and talk that opening opens the scene. If you drop that walk and okay, so Geekscape, you have a VO, you get why the girl is approaching death in a scientific way, and she's going to try and cure it, and she sees that that there's all these different results of the disease of death, whether it be violence, addiction, this and that, all this stuff that's ravaging her neighborhood. You then have a walk and talk to start it off, where she's naming the different periodic elements, and then as you're doing it, you're economically showing the neighborhood, showing the people in the neighborhood. It's like these are the people in your neighborhood. It's like that little scene, but you're doing it in a walk and talk. It doesn't take what 2 minutes. You edited it.
Mhm.
It doesn't take what 2 minutes, but you have the whole movie. You're ready to go. Economic opening, well written, well shot, well acted. That's where I sat up. You know what I mean? Like when you're playing video games and you're leaning back, and then like boss battle comes up, you have my you had your Bomani. Like, you know what I'm talking about though, because you see movies in the first 5 minutes, if they fumble, it's hard to get back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like, you have my curiosity. Oh, now you have my attention. I mean, dude, take credit for some of that stuff. Where did this story come from?
I mean, obviously it starts with the literature. It's like I read the book and was a huge fan of it, loved it. And after I read the book, I knew I wanted to do something with it, and I just knew all these other interpretations, like although
We're talking
great,
about Mary
they
Shelley's Frankenstein.
yeah, they leave a lot of stuff on the floor that I think is very potent and terrifying, and also thematically relevant today. And so I wanted to do something with that, and I mixed that with my two older sisters that I had that I grew up with. They were very inspiring to me, and mentored me and shepherded me through my life. So I wanted to, they were kind of my muse for this. So I captured them and utilized them for as a vehicle for this.
And Bomani, how old were you when you first read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
It's probably about either 18 or 19. I was fresh out of high school. I never
Mhm.
got a chance to read in high school, but I read it like right after.
And then you're getting into film at that time. You're starting to get into it. You're coming out of just north of here, Riverside, or so,
Mhm.
just east of here, Riverside, and then you're making your way to USC, where
Mhm.
it's the fire is starting to turn into flames, right? And you're
Yeah.
starting to was was Frankenstein's story something that was always in your like focus at that point? Were you like, I think horror check probably, or you're a horror fan? Don't have to be a horror fan to make a horror movie, but
Mm.
was that something that was a goal for you going through school? You're like, I think I'm starting to figure out what my first movie is going to be.
Yeah, like once I read the book, I knew immediately that I wanted to do something with this. And it was
Hmm.
around the time while I was going to film school. Sorry. It was around the time when I was uh, going to film school, going to USC and stuff. And it was in the back of my head. I just didn't know necessarily what the story was yet. So it was kind of just brewing the seed as I was learning all these tools and understanding of filmmaking. And as I got closer and closer to being able to realize my dream as a director, it's like this story kept getting closer and closer to being realized in my head, to the point to when I was finally ready to, make the leap. This story was ready in my head to be able to be put down, so I could direct it.
You saw all the shots. I mean,
Basically,
to the most part, you heard the voice. You heard it.
yeah,
You heard
yeah,
all the
yeah, I
different
heard,
voices. I think that's
yeah,
really important.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Bomani, let's talk about the fact that Mary Shelley, right,
Hmm.
as a woman writing this book,
Hmm.
is fighting an uphill battle to get this whole thing recognized.
Oh
But
yeah.
then, as a black filmmaker, and you set this in a black setting, black
Hmm.
protagonists, um, black community,
Hmm.
what what was the fight to get this recognized and get this on screen? And where do you think your place is in this? I know you're going to say some humble stuff, so try not to.
Nah. I just, uh, it was a challenge because like I finished the script and we were taking it. My manager was taking it around town for some years before anything ever really clicked. The challenge was like I had no uh, director experience. I guess is like is the thing people were worried about, um, and just like aversions to the script on whether it would work or not, and so those were really the major like uphill battles, was trying to fight that and fighting for my stance that this is a movie that I need to tell, no one else. So because it's like I had a very particular vision that I wanted for it. And so yeah, it was it took some endurance and some perseverance, but we got through, and now we have what we have now.
And what I love about it, and especially that dinner scene, and Geekscape, I don't want to spoil the movie. It is a Frankenstein movie. You Geekscapists who love horror, and I'm going to push this to the Horror Movie Night podcast over here on the Geekscape network. I'm gonna push this movie because I love it so much, Bomani, and I like you a lot. The what I love about that dinner scene is you start to hear diverse viewpoints. It's not about it's about the Black experience, but from diverse viewpoints within a family around a table. And when you say, if somebody says, "Hey, I hate using this word, but you tell me if I can use the word urban or not." But if you take like a Black urban version of Frankenstein, that sounds to me. I'm sorry if that script comes in. I'm like, oh, this is a viewpoint that sounds pretty good and hasn't been done before, because Black horror audiences are passionate. And I was telling this to somebody earlier today who's involved in your movie. He's one of my closest friends. I was playing basketball with him last Sunday. He's one of my running buddies. When he comes out here, Adam played your monster.
Oh, really?
Listen, I met Adam at a screenwriting meetup last summer.
Yeah.
Immediately we clicked. And today, I just got married in October. If I were to repick my groomsmen, I would have to add one, and it would be Adam. Adam and I talk every single day. So I followed his whole experience of like this movie finishing up, going to South by, this and that. I talk to Adam every day. I talked to him this morning after I finished watching the movie yesterday. It was too late. He flew back to Philly. But I was like, hey, this morning I was like, I finished the movie. I watched the movie yesterday. We shared thoughts. And I said the truth. And he goes, how do you think the movie's going to get received? I said, listen, like, I know this stuff. I mean, Black horror audiences, Black horror fans are passionate. And my friend Jeff Reddick, who wrote the Final Destination movies, big time horror fan. And then you've got but other than that, you really have Candyman. It's like the original Candyman, the Candyman remake, which I thought was great, and then this, and you are feeding an audience that I think is starved for material. Yeah. And so I think you're going to have success with this. I think this is going to be a sequel. You've written it already, right? You've written the sequel already, right? Come on, man. I'm going to come down the street and fight. Listen, Bomani, look me in. Bomani.
Yeah.
I'm not here to fluff you. Like, listen, you wrote the sequel, right?
I got another movie.
No, you should do another movie. You should straight up do another movie because while you're doing that other movie, people are going to be discovering this movie, and it's going to turn into a cult thing. I'm not lying. Literally, you're going to come back in a year, and you're going to be like, Jonathan, you were right. While you do that other movie, and I think it's beautiful. And maybe it's not horror, maybe it's like a personal thing, because I think this is a personal movie too. Like, you're going to do another movie. I think you should absolutely do another movie. You're going to get dragged back into this. Come on, man. I'm not joking with you. And I told that to Adam too. Yeah. I said, listen, you like Bomani better have another script on this thing because this is a great idea. It's a cool idea. Like Geekscape is like, you'll find out on June 9th in theaters. And I think you should watch it in theaters, Geekscape. It's a horror movie. You're going to you want the social experience of being amongst other people watching a horror movie. That's the only way. That's the best way to watch horror movies is communally.
Yeah.
June 9th.
Yeah. I was very surprised on the festival circuit. Like, you just don't know how it's going to.
I'm telling you. Bomani, why are you surprised? I'm telling you what's going to happen.
I don't know, man. You don't know. Like, you're just putting things on the pad. You're shooting it. You don't know what the hell is going to happen, man.
I know.
So yeah, I was like, when I was in the doing the festivals, hearing people's reactions to certain things, I was like, oh, this movie can work a crowd. It's like it can do that. So I definitely am for it being in the theater. Like, if you can go pack a theater with it, man, please show up to the theaters for this June 9th, baby. Let's do it.
I'm telling you, Geekscape is, and even if you're not a horror fan, because here's the thing, my wife is not a horror fan. Doesn't do horror, doesn't love it. She's a huge Adam fan. Adam's the sweetest dude. Adam, who you turned into a monster. We'll talk about that later. Like, who you turned into a monstrosity on screen. He was like one of the sweetest, nicest, earnest dudes ever. Literally, I love the man. And he played a monster. And I told him, I was like, get ready to strap yourself back up. I hope your outfit wasn't too hot, too
Yeah.
uncomfortable, because Bomani, by the end of this, come on, man, you got to be right. Come on, sequel. Geekscape just don't know much about the movie, like sequel, man.
Yeah. Listen, if there's demand and you know what I mean, everything's right. Like, and the story comes, like I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. You know, it's like that's what it takes. You got to be honest about it, man. You don't want a sequel just for the sake of a sequel, right? You want a good sequel.
Bomani, I know you were raised right. I know, like, you're
Yeah.
humble. I know all that stuff. You're a great dude. Adam told me about you. But next week we're gonna meet up for coffee down the street because we
Yeah.
live near each other. I want to see an
Yeah.
outline. I do the same thing to Adam. I'm like, listen. He's like, dude, you are a hard critic. I'm like, dude, I want to see an outline. I just 1 page outline, 3 acts. Put 2 lines across the page. I want to see a 3 act outline. That's it. Just start it up.
Yeah.
Well,
The
money.
Wikipedia entry. Yeah.
I'm telling you, in a month. Let's see. It's the 12th. Okay, let's give it a month and a half. By the end of June, I think you're going to start seeing that I'm making sense. Geekscape is in a year. We're going to be talking like, oh, what's in the sequel? Like, he's going to be gearing for production. Like, but money. I like this movie. I think it's great, and I think you have a great point of view. Your director of photography. Can we talk about her?
Oh man, please. She's the greatest. Daphne,
Yeah, she
fucking
was
Daphne.
awesome.
She's incredible. Yeah, I was like, I'm honored to have her on this movie. I'm like, man, please work with me again. It's like,
Well,
you're amazing.
how'd you find her?
So we went to school together.
Okay, and
Yeah, went to school together.
you have a couple different looks in this movie. I mean, I'm guessing budgetarily and schedule wise, you have to shoot nights and days, and you're respecting the crew turnarounds and all this, but you have day scenes and you have night scenes. And then
Mhm,
beyond that, you've got the POVs of crowded spaces in
mhm,
maybe an apartment or a
mhm,
house, and open spaces like the central area where the projects are and is the main setting for the movie.
mhm,
But then beyond that, you've got perspectives where you're very close to a character, long lens, and then you add this vignetting stuff, right? A focal
mhm.
vignetting, not like
Yeah.
in post where you color the vignette and you want to angle,
Mhm.
direct the audience's eye. Whose decisions were these conversations where you say, hey, let's get this long lens on it, but let's also add a little bit of like a focal vignetting to it to give it a little bit of a POV or a little bit of a, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely a combination of talks between me, uh, Daphne, and our amazing colorist Ariana Shining Star. Like, our colorist was brought in from the since pre-production before we even started filming, so she could create some like looks and some looks, but also with Daphne. I was like, I told her from the get go, I was like, look, I don't want this movie to just look like everything else. I want it, it's like I love these 70s horror movies and I like the texture of it. I like that they have an interesting look to them. And I want like I want us to explore that. And she was like, I got you. And she ran off and then she came back with these really unique like 70s Japanese lenses. We called them Japanese glass, and they really had this fascinating, like fascinating look to them, and I was very like very happy with them. They were incredible. And that's where some of them would give like some of them had like a more soft focus to them at times, which was great. And then other ones had like that, just like that warped, feeling of
Yeah.
just like what you were talking about with them, which were really, really cool, specifically when they're on that hill, Kango and Vakari are arguing. I think that's the scene where it was like coming into play the most. But yeah, it was a very, I loved those lenses. I thought they were so unique. And, shout out to Daphne for really, for really, knocking out the park with that, with her cinematography, and Ariana for, bringing that look down. Like it was, I couldn't have asked for a better crew and team to make this movie happen.
As a male, Bomani, how important was it to crew with females and people who have different perspectives, different life experiences, and adding those different diverse flavors on the crew to this dish you're trying to make, this perfect feast that you're trying to make on a project like this?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say I was being extremely, intentional with that, because I think it is important to be on one side, to be intentional with it, but I also just happen to know these girls very well. It's like Daphne, that's my homegirl, and like I've been wanting to work with her for a very long time, because she turns out phenomenal work. And Ariana, she's just a fucking remarkable um colorist. Just just outstanding. She's just been putting in work. And then our creature design and gore effects in there, Christina Cordum, like she's just she came across us and she's incredible. She's a one woman band kind of doing everything in here. So and then our hairstylist Renisha, like they were just people that um it's like, because I hate the wording of just like, oh, I found who was right for the job, because I think that's bullshit. But like, I just
I
think
think it's
like,
impossible too. Like I think you have to shoot at a certain level. You got to shoot with who you got.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
you know what I mean. But these people were just the people who I loved and I respected, and I really wanted a part of it. And then on top of that, it's like, I mean, this is Angry Black on the Monster. It's like having a lot of voices in the room, that are different than mine. I think is always an important thing, But
Mhm.
yeah.
And you can hire the most talented people. You can bring the most talented people in on a budget that I'm guessing that you had. I don't know your budget. I know your schedule though. I just know I don't know the exact days, but I know how aggressive it was. You
Yeah.
still need to get them the tools they need, the
Yeah.
budget they need to do the right
Yeah.
job, and the
Mhm.
time they need, especially when you're shooting action and effects, which take a while.
Mhm.
They take a lot of time. It's a lot of shots, and you need to make the effects. You have to light them right after you
Mhm.
applied them right. And
Mhm.
I know from talking to Edom, you were chucking that football down the field as fast and as hard as possible. You guys were like, go, go, go all the time. But that's indie filmmaking.
Yeah.
That's indie
Yeah.
filmmaking. I talked to
Yeah.
financiers and they're like, do you think you can do this in 12 days? And I'm like, you got to give me more days. You got to give
Yeah.
me more days. But after a while, they look at the numbers and they say, you don't get more days. Like, you do it or don't. How was that
Yeah.
like on set during COVID? No, you also had to do COVID protocols, right?
Yeah. 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 That was in cost. Yeah. It was I mean, we were sprinting. It's like, it's like I used to run track when I was in high school, and I didn't do the millimeters, and I didn't do the marathons. I did the 800, and a
Mm.
lot of people thought it one of the hardest races because you kind of have to sprint and have endurance at the same time.
The pace
Uh,
different, right?
yeah, and so like I pretty much consider this this experience like we were kind of running the 800 together, because uh we had such a short amount of time, but we had to move, but we also had to have patience with certain things, because Adam has to put on all these makeup effects, and like to do the effects, like it takes some time, as well as the lighting and stuff. So it was all those things. But because my crew was so on the ball, because we only had time to do 1 to 3 takes on the majority of everything. We didn't have a lot of time to do a lot. So because my crew and the people behind me were so on the ball and fantastic, like Daphne would be set up, and there wasn't a lot of work after that. She would just nail it. Our
She had
Christina, she
to.
would just, yeah, yeah, they would just nail it. Renisha with the hair, she would just nail it. Our actors, like they would just fucking nail it. They would come on set and smack it out of the park. You know what I mean? We do a few adjustments, but like for the most part, they would just nail it. And so because of that, it allowed us to be able to make our days in such a fantastic manner. So I'm just, I'm very grateful to that.
But Bomani,
Hmm.
as your new friend,
Yeah.
I have to say though, you are the conduit through which all those things flow. You made you. Come on, man. I know you're uncomfortable with this praise. Too bad. Welcome to Geekscape. Too bad. Too bad. Because you're gonna get more of it, and it's gonna
Yeah.
start June 9th in theaters, and the Geekscape is gonna do it. I'm
Yeah.
serious. You're
Yeah.
feeling all awkward now. I'm too bad. Too bad you signed up for this. Too bad. This is your monster now. This is your monster now. This is your monster now. And you're unleashing it on the world. And you're gonna be like, oh
Yeah.
no, what have I done? Oh no, I'm getting too much attention. People are liking my stuff too much. Oh no, I don't know how to take this praise. Too bad.
All I can say is I hope you're right, man. I hope
Let's
you're right.
go. Yeah.
Next, yeah.
We're gonna,
Next.
what's the name of that horror coffee shop over there on Lancashire? We're gonna meet up there and you're gonna have that outline. Okay, you hear me? I'm not messing with you.
I got you.
I'm sure this other movie's great, but I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna give you. Let's do like a week. It's one page, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. It can be handwritten. All right. 1 week.
I got
We're gonna meet up at that horror. You know the horror place over there on Lancashire.
Yeah.
We're gonna meet up,
I
and
was
I'm gonna
just
read.
there.
I'm gonna see what you got. I'll have notes. I'll have notes. All right. But if it's anything like this movie, I ain't gonna have a lot of notes because this movie is awesome. Geekscape. This Geekscape. I'm talking to you directly right here. Bomani J Story. File him away. File the name away. All right. He's gonna go make like an art film or something like that first, but then he'll come back with a sequel. You know, one for him, one for them, one for you. I know how it works. One for them, one for you. And you know, don't worry about Adam. I've been getting him to our workouts. He's been running the Hollywood Bowl steps with me. Like he's gonna be good. He's good for the suit. He's good.
Yeah.
He's ready.
He's good.
Chris coming back.
Okay.
So
All right.
don't worry. I'm taking care. Don't worry. I'll take care of him. But
All right.
you get me a page in a week, and then you can go make your art film, whatever you're making. You can go make your film, your personal story, and then you come back and we'll start talking sequel, okay, on this thing because I love this movie. Geekscape is in theaters June 9th. You're gonna have to check your local listings. We'll be pushing out here on Geekscape. It's called The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Google the trailer, and you're gonna be like, oh, I gotta see this movie. And I agree. And if you can't make it to a theater near you, you're gonna look for that thing on demand on Shudder. And this app is called ALLBlk, and it's spelled like all ALLBLK. And go ahead and download that right now because you're gonna be ready. You're gonna be ready to catch this thing when it comes out later this summer. Any chance we get you down to Comic-Con to promote at the Geekscape booth maybe in July or something?
Oh, man, I've never been to Comic-Con. I'd love to.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk. Geekscape is Bomani. Thanks, man, for making this movie. And I, you know, I'm being silly about the sequel. I am actually invested in what you're doing next, regardless of whether or not it's a sequel or not. Okay, man?
Yeah. No, I got you.
Okay. Cool.
I got you, man.
I love having you on the show, man.
No,
thanks,
man.
dude.
Fantastic. Yeah. No, thank you, man.
Of course.
All right.